Mr. Himanshu Desai, you have studied philosophy quite comprehensively, especially the Western philosophy and modern philosophy. So my question to you is about India. Uh, why do we see a kind of philosophical vacuum in India, especially in the last 50 years or so? We had a great philosophical tradition in the past, also in the medieval era, and something seems to have gone wrong, especially after the independence. What is your take on the climate of philosophy in this country?
Thank you, Dr. Singh. So, um, to be honest, I think this is a very political question and not very much. The flight of philosophy itself has been submitted to politics. This is what I feel. When we got independence in 1947, uh, it was soon after famines and many other kind of disasters. So therefore, I think the problems on the ground uh, were needing a different kind of attention. Needless to say that early governments of free independent India um, focused more on industry, infrastructure development. In the early stages of Indian independence, there was a lot of investment in probably coal and iron industries. Now, of course, very early on, it seems that our focus shifted from humanities to economics. This is what my reading is, perhaps. And that focus has not shifted back. While it is well known that India has been renowned for centuries and for millennia for its highly humanitarian thinking, Indians per se are highly tolerant people. And we have freedom struggle of India itself was a war without any weapons from our side. Our only weapon was non-violence. It was the first war led by an army of common people who never used any weapons except truth and non-violence. So you can see itself, it is a great humanitarian victory. And first time in the world, in the history of imperial, imperial trysts and imperial, what do you say, imperial, the world was imperial prior to that. And imperialism was crushed by simple non-violence and, insisting on the truth and what we call satyagraha. If that is not philosophy, then what is philosophy? So I would say that philosophy has always been present here. Only I feel that in academia we have not been able to give it a defined chunk in our syllabus. We have subjects in schools which are history, political science. I remember one of the subjects was moral science, and in which some philosophers were mentioned. But philosophy is not just limited to morality. And what is a subject called moral science? This UGC book used to say there is a subject, there was a book on moral science. And it was very misleading because under moral science, they were teaching civics and human rights. They are very different than just simply saying moral science. Is there a moral science? That itself is a very big mistake, I feel, that we were trying to push a certain kind of indoctrinated post-colonial morality on our children. Now, anyways, so let's come back. Why I do feel there is a vacuum in our society in terms of philosophy. An example I would like to give, that when I came back to India after 10-year absence, one day walking on the street, I was I came upon a scene in which a cycle rickshaw man was very thin, and he was taking some very heavily built ladies in his cycle rickshaw in the heat of summer. and there was some big car behind him, a very big, expensive car. I don't know what make model, but that person was honking as if he had the authority on the road. That was my first, um, first meeting with a vacuum, which I feel today. Secondly, I took a trip to Meerut, and when I went to visit a college, the college campus was extremely beautiful. You feel like almost you have suddenly come into a foreign country, to be honest. It was very clean, and buildings were very beautiful. But the professors and the dean, whoever I talked with, they were not able to converse on basic topics. So we have, I think, come into a time where we are building vast universities. Yesterday I saw an advertisement in TV in which they were claiming that they were India's most innovative university. Like, what? How do you make that claim? And in an advertisement, and universities are advertising just like toothpaste nowadays. As if they are selling a toothpaste and not knowledge. Can knowledge be sold? That's the other thing. There are many questions herein, but of course we can't get into that. A philosophical vacuum can also be uh, attributed to certain economic forces, because India is trying to become a superpower and therefore competing in the realm of capitalist development. Capitalism is something we cannot escape. We are all capitalists in some way. Maybe somebody earns little less money, but money is money, whatever you say. Um, However, I want to point something from Karl Marx. But I'm not Marxist, but let me say that. But there is something very interesting which I can see today, especially with the context of coronavirus and the ensuing Holocaust of the migrant exodus. Or I don't know, exodus is the right term, but the migrant.
May I interject?
Yes.
May I interject for a
Yes.
second?
Yes.
1 second. Yeah, I would like to interject here.
Yes.
Yes, the main part of my question as to the crisis of philosophy in our country was well illustrated by your example of a man, a rickshaw puller who was carrying
Yeah.
2, 3 fat people, and a
Yes.
expensive car was honking and was demanding a way on the road. I think that really shows that philosophy is really lost somewhere in today's time. But we can talk a lot more, but we do not have much time in this video.
Yeah.
Now you have instigated another topic about migrant workers. You
Yes.
have also instigated the context of what's happening in our so-called modern universities, which are very important, so important that they call for a separate question and separate video, which I would like
Yes.
to address next in the next video, with your permission.
Okay.
All right. So
I would like to finish
with
with.
the last line. Yeah,
I
please.
would like to.
The
Yeah,
last.
last line. I would like to very briefly, not last line, but 2, 3 lines, and that is about my reference of Karl Marx's one piece of writing, which is called 1844 manuscripts, also known as Paris manuscripts, in which he talked about alienation of the so-called proletariat, or the working class, or the labor class, or blue collar, whatever you want to call it. Now alienation, he just, I want to close with this one idea of Karl Marx. And how the alienation in society works is the person who is working in the factory and making a product himself is unable to buy that product, and then he will see it on television being used by somebody in a bourgeois middle class setting, and that is a very dramatic example of alienation.
Absolutely.
This is what is definitely resonating with our today's migrant crisis.
Yeah.
That is all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank,
Thank you. And I will ask this very question in the next video because it requires a proper explanation, not just one sentence.
yes.
But
Thank you.
I have to close this video and I will catch you
Thank you.
again in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you very much.